So we go now to the last part of the basic concept of strategic management. So according to Henry Mitzberg, after much research, he has discovered that strategy formulation is not typically not a regular, rather it's a continuous process. It is most often an irregular, discontinuous process proceeding in fits and starts. There are periods of stability in strategy development, but also there are periods of flux, of groping, of piecemeal change, and of global change. So, why did Mitzberg was able to somehow think about this? This is also my opinion. Because once we are doing business, we may not know if what we're actually doing as of the moment is right or will be successful and gain us profit until we have bumps in the road, or until someone of the outside perspective knocks us out and tell us you're doing something right, or there's something wrong in what you are doing, but it can be straightened up. That's why it's a discontinuous process. There are fits and starts, and period of somehow time stability and groping probably along the way. That's why Mitzberg have think about this. But why is it that we have to adopt to strategic management? What are these events that stimulate such change? So for the next slide, we're going to tackle about the triggering events. Triggering events is something that acts as a stimulus for a change in strategy. There are various triggering events. These are just some of which. So a new CEO. By asking a series of embarrassing questions, a new CEO cuts through the veil of complacency and forces people to question the very reason for the corporation's existence. So, if you are working, or if you have tried working in an organization and you've been working there for quite some time with the same heads, and then that head retire and replaced by a new head, you are already so complacent, used to, comfortable with the previous head, not knowing that such comfort did not or just provide little achievement probably, or little performance in the organization. Thus, a new CEO sometimes triggers or stimulates change in the organization, and then thus a new strategy is being or will commence. Next, external intervention. So this is an example. A firm's bank suddenly refuses to approve a new loan or suddenly demands payment in full on an old one. A key customer complains about a serious product defect. So this is just an example of external intervention. When a customer complains that your product, and then it's not just one customer, but there are various complaints of your product, and then you might wonder, or you might ask, what did I do wrong, or what's wrong with my process that I have come out with a very defective product? And a lot of customers are complaining. So this event might actually rings a bell that it's time for your procedures or your functional strategy probably, or your existing strategy to be changed. And then threat of a change in ownership. let's just say another firm may initiate a takeover by buying company's common stock. So, if the business is being sold to another business, so technically, new owner comes in. So, what if the new owner has different ways of managing and creating tactics and strategy in running the business? So you, as the employee or part of the managerial composition in that organization, might also be triggered or stimulated by these events. Performance gap. A performance gap exists when performance does not meet expectation. Sales and profit either are no longer increasing or maybe even failing. This is probably true to some BPO companies, catering outbound or inbound calls maybe. When they have expected performance and then their people only perform as much, to the point that there are already dissatisfied clients or sales may be failing. So if there are performance gap, the management needs to evaluate and reevaluate what's wrong with their current systems of strategies. Perhaps the people are not that motivated and involved in the decision making. So they have to also see to it that something should be done, or see to it that they have to change maybe because old things are not anymore compatible to the new ones. Next, strategic inflection point. So, coined by Andy Grove, a past CEO of Intel Corporation, this is according to him, a strategic inflection point is what happened to a business when a major change takes place due to the introduction of new technology, a different regulatory environment, a change in customers' values, or a change in what customer prefer. So infection point, it's just like a disease or it's just like a virus wherein once the virus infects you, something has to change has to take place. You have to change the way you react or the way how you normally do your stuff. So I think this is what it means by strategic inflection point. You have to change because everybody has already changed or something injected to you makes you change. Now you might ask, what makes a decision strategic? According to Whelan and Hanger, a decision is strategic if it's rare, unusual, and typically have no precedent to follow. No precedent, it means no one has ever done this before. So that's why it's the best because or it's unique or it's strategic because no one has made it or done this before. Somehow we may call it unorthodox. Requires extensive resources and commitment from all the people in the organization. I think I already discussed this in the previous videos I made. Consequential because you have to involve everybody in the organization and they have to commit to the strategy that you are planning. Extensive resources because once you shift from your status quo strategies, from your comfortable strategy to a new one, you have to really use up the resources to make the strategy successful. Directive, strategic decisions set precedent for lesser decision and future action throughout the organization. It provides direction to the company. And then, still on Mitzberg, according to him, the three most typical approaches or modes of strategic decision making are the three: entrepreneurial, adaptive, and planning mode. However, the fourth one is just added by Queen on the later part. So entrepreneurial mode is strategy is made by powerful individual. The focus is on opportunity. It is guided by the founder's vision and mission. So this is probably more on the new, when the new products and services probably introduced in the market, the innovations of products and services in the market. Because entrepreneurial, because only few individual or powerful individual um, somehow creates that distinctive strategy and injects their products and their strategy in the market, and they are very successful in that aspect. Next is adaptive mode. This is characterized by reactive solution to existing problems rather than proactive search for new opportunities. In adaptive, strategy is fragmented and is developed to move a corporation forward incrementally, and is typical to universities, according to them, large hospitals, and government organization, and even some large corporation. So, an example provided by the book on an example of adaptive mode is Encyclopedia Britannica Incorporated. Actually, Encyclopedia Britannica before was sold door to door, where they sell you on a cash basis or monthly amortization basis and give you a very thick books until in 1996 they shift their sales and marketing to television and internet marketing. And because of this, they now charge libraries and individual subscribe to full access to Britannica.com. So that's adaptive mode. They have to adapt to what is happening. If they haven't adapted during 1996 with such strategy, where do you think Britannica is now? Do you think they will still exist? Or if they exist, do you think their sales will be that high? Of course, I don't think so. Next is planning mode. Involves the systematic gathering of appropriate information, analysis, generate feasible alternative strategies, and rational selection amongst strategy. So planning includes proactive search for new opportunities and the reactive solution of existing problem. An example again given by the book we are using. Actually, I send this to you. In 1993, IBM was in serious difficulty. Its mainframe computer products decline in sales. However, its service area is growing, but not really profitable. So, the CEO during that time, Louis Gerster, had a meeting with his executive, and they decided to provide a set of service from building systems for defining architecture to running and managing computer for the customers. And because of that, they sold some of its, because of that decision, they have to give up something. They sold some of its hardware business. This decision was called strategic, since after such decision was being implemented, most of its profit are now comes from service. So, they react to current situation and they are proactive on what is to happen next. Last thing, the additional by Quinn, the logical incrementalism, viewed as a mixture of the planning, adaptive, and entrepreneurial mode. So, they combine everything. In logical incrementalism, the management has already a clear idea. It is assumed that the management has already a clear idea of the corporate's mission and objectives. But in its development of strategies, it chooses to use this type of strategy. an interactive process in which the organization probes the future, experiment and learns for series of partial commitments rather than through a global formulation to total strategy. So somehow incremental, ginagmay. This approach, according to them, is useful when the environment is changing rapidly because you have to adapt to the changes in the environment, and when it is important to build consensus and develop needed resources before committing an entire corporation to a specific strategy. So this is logical incrementalism, as they said, is only useful, or this approach is somehow useful if or when the environment is changing very, very rapidly. In some industries, yes, the environmental aspect of that certain industry changes rapidly. But some industries, business industries, the environment within that industry does not necessarily change rapidly. An example provided is that those who can really use this type of strategy decision making mode is petroleum industry, because the corporate headquarters, according to this approach, logical incrementalism, the corporate headquarters established the mission and objective. So in the petroleum industry, the owner or the corporate headquarters, the corporate strategy, established the mission and objective. But in the business unit, they allowed those business unit propose their own strategies to achieve them. So somehow, when you're talking about petroleum industry, we have three big petroleum industries in our country, three big known petroleum industries in our country. Whoever is the founder of that, or the corporate strategy maker for that, they just put the mission and objective. But these branches here, or the business unit we have here, we can see in our areas, they allow those managers in this business unit to propose their own strategy in order to achieve what they need to achieve in that business unit. So that's the end of all the lecture we have on the introduction and the basic concept of strategic management. Have a good day and prepare for quiz.